You've been looking for a podcast to help you transform your physical and mental, one that'll shoot you straight between the eyes with truth and no BS, helping you have the right mindset to accomplish things, the iron will and fortitude to follow through with what you say you're going to do. No excuses. Mark owns martial arts schools, and after 30 years, he has some real insight for real talk, real life, real conversations, motivational, fitness, self-defense, weight loss, live from the Great 1-8. This is Real Talk with Mark Cox.
There we go. We're live. We're live. Good morning, Doc. How you doing?
Doing great, Mark. Thanks for having me. It's going to be a good one. This next hour is going to be freaking awesome.
That is right. I'm looking forward to this the energy you bring and the wisdom you bring. And let's see what we can do to help some other people that have these addictions, because I've had this in my own family, let alone students of mine that I've taught and then fallen into addiction themselves. Matter of fact, I have students that walk the streets right around me right here that I taught as kids that are just hooked on fentanyl and crying on my shoulder. And it's hard for me to, I just don't know how to help anymore until they make a decision on themselves to help themselves, I'd imagine. So
yeah, definitely. That's 100% true.
Well, let me give a quick introduction. We have Dr. Robb Kelly, who's a PhD. He's a sought after recovery expert who believes in treating the causes of addiction and not the symptoms. Dr. Kelly has appeared on such shows as The Doctor's Eye Opener, Good Morning Texas, and what's that? Ken, is that Ken's 5 Morning News? Is that there in Texas?
Yes.
Something there. That's great. A frequent contributor to radio and print interviews, including the Jim Bohannon Show, Miracles in Recovery, USA Today, and participated in McLean Hospital's Harvard Medical School study on the stigma associated with mental illness. Also, as it says here, Dr. Kelly, you created Let's Get Back to 98% Recovery DVDs used in prison and recovery treatment centers throughout the U.S. He's lectured on addiction and trauma at high-profile universities, national conferences, treatment facilities, public schools, churches, business organizations, hospital. And Dr. Kelly is currently a CEO of the Robb Kelly Recovery Group, an addiction and mental illness recovery coaching company. Awesome pedigree. Well, let's talk about where it was before you were Dr. Robb. Let's talk about the early days on where you were. That makes it so easy for you to relate to people today.
Well, I was born into a musical family, but I was also born into an alcoholic family, which I didn't know then. Back in the 60s, I was born in 61. Nobody knew about alcoholism. Certainly mental health wasn't on the agenda. Nobody knew about that either. So I took my first drink at the age of 9 on a stage with my auntie and uncle playing in a band in Liverpool. It was on a Friday night, and we'd just done the first set, and I was so nervous. I came off, and my uncle said, "Hey, try one of these." And he gave me a beer, and I drank it down straight away, and all my nerves and all my anxiousness just disappeared instantly. Right there and then, I knew that this was going to be the drink that was going to save my life, because it took all the anxiety away, took all the nerves away, and every Friday night, first of all, and then going through my teens, every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night, I would take this drink before I went on stage. No more though, just that drink. And then obviously throughout the years, it just escalated, but obviously never had a problem with it. So yeah, it was really, really good for me. I really enjoyed it. No bad things ever happened in the early days, and then going into 20s, nothing really happened. And then all of a sudden, boom, it took over my life and I lost everything.
So you have a book out also. And I read a little bit on your excerpt that you became homeless yourself. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did. 14 months on the streets of Manchester.
What was that kind of life like?
I remember for the very first night, I'm thinking, how the hell did I get here? Even though I come from the projects, I made something of myself. And I lived in a very nice house, nice cars, 2 children, beautiful wife, all the stuff, and lost it all. So the first night is like, holy shit, what just happened there? How did that go all wrong? And then after a few months, I was always a fighter, boxing, karate, stuff like that. And I was a bodybuilder as well. So, I won the under 21s, the UK, and a bunch of times. So I was a big guy that was nasty as well when he drank, because I could look after myself. So the first few months was a bit, I don't know, it was like fighting most days, bare knuckle fighting for money. Or if I couldn't get any money, I'd go steal and hurt somebody for money, or rob them at nighttime coming out of the discotheques and nightclubs. So I got to admit though, Mark, after about 6 or 7 months, I got quite comfortable on the streets. I'm like a chameleon. I can adapt to any situation, and I quite enjoyed it. And then the suicide attempts come, and then on 2 occasions it worked, and I was dead on the side of the road, and the EMTs brought me back to life again, and I hated them guys for that. But yeah, it was just I wanted to die on the streets. In actual fact, I think the figures in Manchester back then was 97% that were homeless would die on the streets, and 3% were lucky enough to get off, and I was one of the 3%. But until the last day I was on the streets, I never thought I had a problem. I always thought it was bad luck, going through this, it'll be okay. But nobody would speak to me. Everyone disowned me. My parents, brother and sister, my wife, she wouldn't let me see the children. I was abandoned on the streets. And like I said, suicide attempts, drinking myself to oblivion every single day and night, just sleeping on the bus shelters, sleeping on the bushes. It was just a horrible, horrible lifestyle. I remember one morning, woke up and the guy next to me on the next bench to me been stabbed to death for his sneakers. That's the kind of environment I was around. It was very, very, very dangerous environment. Very dangerous.
It's this way. I didn't realize we have a lot of stuff in common. Well, first of all, we're born in the same year. I was born in 61 also. And in here, and of course, doing martial arts and stuff like that, lifting weights like I did, we have that in common. But I didn't realize that. I didn't know that you did some martial arts and everything else back in the day. Did you do it old school back in the 70s when it was blood and guts karate?
I did late 70s, probably 76, 77. I think Bruce Lee just come out. I studied Shotokan, got my first dan. So went to some fights. Obviously, it was non-contact back in the day. But yeah, I did boxing as well. Just, I could look after myself. There's no doubt about that. So that took me through the streets. I mean, that guy that was there on the streets was vicious, was nasty, was very protective, very guarded, very wary of people. He's still to this day, and I bet you're the same, Mark. I will never sit in a restaurant where my back is towards the door.
Never.
First thing I do when I go in is I look for an escape route, and I look for what I think is the nastiest person that would cause me trouble in a fist fight. I look at where he is, what he's going to do, and how long it would take for him to get over to me every single time. And this has been going on for over 30 years. Not ever has there been an incident, but I will always be that way. I will always protect whoever I'm walking by. Like my wife always walks on the right side of me when I'm walking down the road, on the left side. So I protect her at all times. And I'm just one of those guys today that we have guns around the house, stuff like that. But we have a lot of cameras and alarm systems. But if somebody broke through my house, I broke into my house, and there was a threat to my family, I'm going all out.
Yep. We're set from. We're definitely from the same cloth as far as that goes. I still do that today. It's the movie theaters, everything. My kids sometimes
today as well. It's like, you can't conceal a weapon, or in Texas now it's just open carry. No one gives a shit. But I want to know where the exits are, and I want to be sat when somebody walks in, they don't have direct fire at me,
yes.
So I can get down for a bit, and then maybe, but it's all the crazy stuff that we go through, Mark, that other people probably don't understand. But, I'm kind of on guard 24 hours a day. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, definitely the same. I've got a little bit of law enforcement behind me also. So
me too.
I always have that. I was watching my back or whatever. So back to the street things, I asked this question because, it's prevalent here. I don't know how it is in Texas, but I'm telling you, here in Los Angeles, it is prevalent.
Yeah.
And I'd like to know what your expert opinion is on. I have so much homeless just in my area, and they have shelters, but it's only 25% occupied because they don't really want to go in the shelters.
Yeah.
And they're kind of built. Well, the shelters also, they'll allow you to leave and you can get high all day and come back. But the thing is, you can't have coffee. You can't have microwaves. You can't have everything in your room. You can go out and do whatever you want all day. And it's like I don't know, it's kind of an upgrade of prison, I guess. So
Yeah.
I guess I can see why people don't really want to go in there. You feel that it's the same for people on the street? Do you think shelters are something people need? Did you ever go to one yourself?
Oh yeah, I went to a few shelters because I just didn't want to sleep. You've got to remember, in England, Manchester, the summer's like over 3 or 4 weeks. The rest is cold, and Christmas time it's snowing and below zero. So yeah, I've used them. I think they offer. See, back about 20 years ago, they offered something that homeless people didn't have, and they were very successful. But you have to look. We've studied everything to do. We don't just deal with alcohol and drugs. It's childhood trauma, it's depression, it's all sorts of crazy stuff we deal with. But a lot of people on the streets today want to be on the streets. Okay. Now, a lot of them might go into a drug place or an addiction or something, alcoholism, because of the situation. But I just think we need more education around what alcoholism and addiction is. We need to look at our vets and go, hey, what the hell are we doing with these guys? We're just, they're fighting for our freedom, and they come home, we treat them like shit. I think there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of money in recovery. Sorry, there's a lot of money in sickness. There's not a lot of money in recovery. So what I mean by that is, if the pharmaceutical companies can't give you a pill or stick you in a treatment center for 30 days for 25 grand, nobody's really interested. Now, the psychiatric hospitals got less and less going through the 80s and 90s, and now there's no such thing apart from a little ward. They used to be at psychiatric hospitals. There's not anymore. So where do they go? They get arrested and they go back on the streets. And a lot of people like to live on the streets. Those who don't, they're the 25% probably use the shelters. But we need a whole new look at this, as far as I'm concerned. And guys, I'm not just popped up. I'm 62. I've had over 30 years experience, and probably 8,000 people I've helped, just over. I've lived on the streets. I've been on the streets. I've studied on the streets in Los Angeles and Dallas and San Antonio. I get amongst them and find out what the real problem is. And it seems like education. When I was on the streets, Mark, I met doctors, I met scientists, I met CEOs of big corporations, not just CEO of big corporations like, Shell and stuff like that. There's a mixture on the streets for different reasons. But I think when it comes to drugs and alcohol, depression, childhood trauma, we need a different look with a different attitude. And I think that's what we brought to the addiction world. It's like, I'm loud and proud. You can't shut me up. I'm going to say something. What I'm going to say. I got on national TV with the Purdue attorney, and I fought him on live TV. They could do nothing about it. And the very next day, they filed for bankruptcy. He's like, I don't give a shit. Something needs to be done, and I'm the guy to say it. And I've already watched your back, Rob. I don't give a shit. What are you going to do to me that I haven't already done to myself? What? You're going to beat me up? I'm 62, but I doubt it very much. I doubt it very much. Are you going to sue me? What are you going to sue me for? It's like my turn is more powerful than you. So shut up. Let's talk about the truth. I'm not taking any shit. I don't bullshit anybody. I don't answer to anybody. I used to answer to people with the psychology board in Texas, but it's a coaching company. I don't answer nobody apart from God and my wife. The rest can kiss my ass. Someone's got to start changing the situation. And, there's a bunch of us out there doing it, including yourself, Mark.
Yeah, that's super powerful, Doc. It's the kind of men that's needed for sure. And the only kind of men that sometimes can do it is the ones that's been down the road and have, I guess for short men, have the balls to stand up and say what needs to be said.
You've got to do. And if you haven't been there, Mark, you can't. What the hell? What can you teach? What can you say? I've got a master's in counseling. Well, good for you. But have you been on the streets where you have to stab people to survive? I stabbed my wife 3 times one night, Mark, because she wouldn't let me finish my bottle of vodka. You think somebody going to a 5-year college degree on therapy would understand that? No, they won't understand that. But you talk to another alcoholic or coach who's been in my position, and they'll go, oh, yeah, I do exactly the same, man. It's a different level. Now, you can counsel people all over here, but addiction and alcoholism, if you have an experience, I'm sorry if I upset a few people here, but you cannot do the job that we need it done. We can't do it.
I totally. Well, that's also the coach that's going to tell you how to lose weight, but's never been fat. So,
I
never.
just lost 107 pounds, Mark, over the last 18 months. I was 350 pounds. I think I'm 220 now, so maybe a little bit more. But
that's something else that you and I have in common. I'm down to 127 pounds, and I was an athlete, and I'm an athlete, and I was just always a big dude, and had a couple scares with blood clots in the lungs, and then a pancreatitis scare here just a few months ago. That was pretty painful for 3 days in the hospital. It sucked, and but then again, you have to have some kind of a mindset. Well, some shit's going to have to change. If I don't change it, somebody else, it's got to do what it's got to do. I'd like to know what you think on the why is it that there's, the homeless is one thing. Did you experience it on the street when you were there? Why do they hoard so much? What is the reasoning for the hoarding? I mean, the homelessness is one thing, being in the thing, but taking up the sidewalk with all kinds of shit, trash, and every other freaking thing. Where does that come from? Where's the hoarding issues come from?
I'm going to tell you the answer, and some people might be freaked out about it, but hey, it comes from childhood trauma. It comes from everything being taken away. All the childhood abuse. There's the gateway drug, childhood trauma. I don't mean what you read in, I mean real childhood trauma. Let's go deep into what trauma looks like. It's not big T and small t. Forget that bullshit. It's all huge T's. How that affects. We've been robbed of everything. I did the same. We'd have everything taken off. And the only piece of power we have is the stuff that we hoard on the streets. The stuff you see, the old woman online with the shopping cart full of stuff. That's the only thing that gives them power today. So, hey, Christopher Ross, good to see you, man. Good to see you. It's that lack of, it's that being abandoned for so long. Because I know that's what I felt on the streets. I felt very, very abandoned, and I was abandoned, and I suffered from that most of my life, abandonment. And I'll never be tall enough, thin enough, blonde enough, or rich enough. It's like when I get this and I want more. So it's all part of that hoarding, either psychologically or stored in the mind, because the mind sits inside the brain. It's not the same entity. So that's how, when you look at the mind itself and what it's capable of doing with the energy and the power that we have as human beings, you'll be blown away what you can achieve.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is powerful. Yeah, Christopher's on saying hi. I had him on last week, and boy, I tell you, the similarities are, he's a no-nonsense guy too. He's freaking awesome.
Gotta be. Today's world, Christopher, thank you, man. I mean, it takes, and Mark, it takes some balls to stand up, because first of all, especially with me in the medical fraternity, first of all, they wanted to discredit me. He didn't go to college. He's not English. Whatever the fuck he was. It's crazy. And then they mock you. Oh, don't be stupid. But at the end of the day, they got to listen to you. Especially if you're doing what we're doing. We got to listen to you, And that's the most important thing. I think if you have a vision, and this is what I teach people every day when they want to achieve something, it's not only that I'll visualize something, I'll get it. No, it doesn't work like that, man. You've got to visualize it through a period of appointments with somebody who knows what they're doing. Then you've got to attach that chemical to that feeling that visualization does. So, like if I give you $1,000 now, Matt, all of a sudden you're going to feel, wow, that's awesome. You're going to feel a bit happy, and why? Well, you just give me $1,000. Well, no, that's not why. There's a chemical released in your brain. We don't know what it is yet. We're studying it. It's not dopamine, any of the known ones. And why are you capable of producing that chemical that took you to a better place right there and then without me giving you $1,000? 100%. That's the key to life. But you have to attach the feeling to the futuristic vision of what you want to be. You have to attach a feeling. What would it be like if I'm already there? How would I feel? And what happens is that produces the chemical, which produces the actions, behavioral, and back out into the world. But it has to be attached to how I would feel now if I was CEO of a multi-trillion-dollar company. How would that feel right now? So what we do to guys who are coming up and want to make something of themselves is we take them to the Porsche dealerships and we sit them in the car. Then we take them to the houses and we walk around. You see, there's a chemical attached to that placement in that Porsche while they're sat there. And basically what happens, if you can connect the feeling with the chemical, with the visualization, then you will get there. But when you do get there, the mind doesn't go, holy shit, I don't belong here. Oh my God, look, it's so expensive. No. What the mind does is goes, I remember this place. I belong here.
Interesting. That's powerful. That's powerful stuff right there, Doc.
Go on, baby. Let's do this.
That's it. Yeah. We got those. We got the gun show for sure. I tell that to my kids all the time. I said, hey, man, the show's sold out. And they said, what show, Dad? I said, the gun show is sold out, bro. That's what's sold out. So I tell my kids that all the time. Well, Doc, let's talk about your book. How'd you decide to go ahead and write a book? What's that about?
Well, I was against it, and everyone kept saying, you got to write a book, you got to write a book. But the interesting thing about the book is I lived in Dallas for about 12 years before I moved to San Antonio. And talk about show me your friends, I'll show you your future. I said to my guys, I'm thinking of writing a book. And most of them went, nah, don't be silly. You're not an author. You can't do that. That's just stupid. Never wrote a book. When I came to San Antonio some 4 or 5 years ago, I got a new set of powerful peeps around me. And I said to them, you know something, I'm thinking of writing a book. And they all said, oh my God, I thought you already had books out there. I would buy it now. So this is how it came across. Little scribbles on bits of paper to my wife, Janet Kelly, or voicemails on my phone sent to her over a period of about 3 years. And she put it all together. Unbelievable what she did. And she come up with this amazing book. Now, the crazy thing is, guys, I've never read it. It's too painful for me. I can't do that right now. But she sent it off. We got it published. And then just before we got it published, my daughter got in contact with me on Messenger 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Went over there to see her, and we hugged and cried, walked into her living room. She handed me my 3-month-old granddaughter, and that bond was done. But we didn't have a name for the book. So we were telling Charlie there's not a name for the book. And she said, what about the last thing I said to you? And I'm like, remind me. So apparently I was in charge of the children. I've been blackout. They've not been fed for 2 or 3 days or changed diapers. The police picked them up, kicked the door down. Mother-in-law was there, wife was there, protection services, child protection services, the police, they were all there. And I was wasted on the floor, and these 2 little babies were just sat there crying. They served me with unfit father papers, and they took my children off me right there and then. My youngest one, ages 1, was given to my wife, and my eldest one, my mother-in-law, my eldest one with my wife. And as they walked down the path, I'm stood at the door feeling like the worst piece of shit ever. And I've let everybody down. The feeling inside my body was just heartbroken. I was crying. One of the police officers was crying. Mom was crying. But Charlie, my eldest, she said 3 things to me. And she walked down the path with Mommy's hand, and she's holding Mommy's hand up here. And she turned around and said, Daddy, Daddy, please don't go. Mm-hmm. And as she walked down the path, probably about in the middle, she turned around again and said, Daddy, Daddy, please get better. As they got to the gate, they opened the gate, and she turned around one more time and said, Daddy, Daddy, please stop drinking. And I couldn't. And a few months after that, Mark, I was on the streets. But Daddy, Daddy, please stop drinking is the name of the book that we come up with. So if you're watching, guys, not listening, that's my daughter, and that's obviously me back in the day. I was wasted there. I was so drunk and wasted. It was unreal. So that's the title, and obviously by me, and I dedicated the whole book to her, and we published it, and we 98% of stuff we give it away. If somebody called, on your book signed, it's going to cost me. It's like, it's on Amazon, it's $9, but if you like me, I didn't want to pay $9 on a book. Like, just call us, message us, I'll give you a signed copy. We'll even pay the postage, so yeah, it's just about giving it away free. Giving it away free of charge. We have I think when it's September, I have a conference, my first conference that I've put on with Adam Javelin, and the 22nd, 23rd in Boca Raton, Florida. We'll have like 500 books. Everybody gets books free. So it's not a money-making thing. It's just to spread the message thing. Yeah,
it's powerful. Doc, you kind of got me on that one. Might even be misty-eyed a little bit thinking about it. It's tough. It's tough. I'm a dad, and I could feel the energy through the even through the call. That's tough stuff there for sure.
Yeah.
That's real tough. That's real tough. So what do you think, what's your opinion then as you go forward, when you do your life coaching, do you have a life coaching that you talk about, what's your forte, what's your niche, or do you have multiple niches that you kind of deal with? Do you deal with people that need better in business, or do you deal with strictly with mindset and how to deal with, do you dabble deep into, what causes people to do what they do? How does that work in your world? What is your niche?
Well, with 8,000 patients and a 97% success rate, the nearest one to us is 10%. We have to have a secret, surely. Well, we do. We will work with anybody. If you want to better yourself, become a CEO. If you want to become a better dad, you get no confidence, addiction, childhood trauma, depression, whatever it is. If you want to build an empire, whatever it is, we guarantee we're going to get you there. Otherwise, we refund your money. But yeah, that's what we do. How do we do it? Well, we're the experts on neuroscience pertaining to the mind, pertaining to any addiction or failure. Everybody has an addiction, by the way, guys. If you're thinking you don't, think again, you do. Everybody has an addiction, and everybody has childhood trauma. So by using the neuroscience around and neuroplasticity, brain spotting, psychology, behavioral science, and neuro-linguistic programming, amongst a daily 1 hour a day over 90-day period via telehealth on Zoom, we get you to the place you want to be. So when you have the assessment, we ask you in 3 months or 3 to 6 months time, because it's a step down from daily, what do you want to achieve? And they go, well, I want to win the lottery. Yeah, you're not our guy, go away. Well, I want to become manager at work. I want to get in contact with my children. I want to be the best husband around. I want to build an empire. I don't want to be depressed. I have a lot of trauma. Whatever it is, we run a program around you. Now, these days, we only take on 4 patients at any one time. We don't take on any more because it's just too busy right now. We're booked up solid for the next goodness knows how long. But yeah, there's nothing we won't do to make sure you get there. So we have done all sorts of stuff. So we had a guy once who was suffering from Asperger's. He was on, the spectrum. I hate that word, but he was. And he was about 21 years old, and his parents, desperately wanted him to have a normal life, kind of have a girlfriend, which he never had and probably never would have without coming to us. And his fear was speaking to girls. So after a couple of months, I said, okay, we're going to cure this. Didn't tell him nothing. Didn't tell him anything. But I got a pub in Dallas, Texas. It was an Irish pub, and a friend married us there. And I hired 20 girls, 20 really good-looking models. And they came into the office and said, here's the deal. If I come to your table, I'm going to pay for everything. And you got to mention Mustang cars because that's what he was into. I'm paying everybody, I don't know, $25 an hour. It'll be a 3-hour deal. I pay for all the meals. But what happens is me and him went in, because I told him I was taking him out for a meal, and I asked him to look around the pub. I said, if you could have any girl in there, who would you have? So obviously the beautiful blonde that we'd hired, he points at her. So I literally had to drag him over there, and we sat down before he even knew what day it was. And I said, hey, girls, I was going to join you, blah, blah, blah. It's my friend. And straight away, one of the girls said, I can't be too long. I've got to go down and put some money in the meter. I don't want my Mustang being towed away. Well, he was into Mustangs, so they got talking, and house on fire. He'd come out the next day, and then 3 or 4 days later, he had a girlfriend and got married and had children. That's the shit we do. Whatever it takes. I will jump on a plane. If you go missing, I will find you. I would handcuff you, and I will bring you back to us to get you well. There's nothing I won't do.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Doc. What do you think they? Well, let's just say. Well, I can probably attest, just me personally. I don't really speak for others, but I can tell you that because what I went through. Maybe I had a cousin that molested me when I was a kid. It's probably why I am the protector I am today, right? And it's just probably is what dictated my life, because I'll make sure that it doesn't happen.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'll do anything on that end too to facilitate that it doesn't happen. But I see here now, now that I have you, I'd like to get some of your expert opinions on, and because in my world, what I saw 20 years ago with students and parents are way different than what I'm seeing here today. First of all, I just don't recall a lot of autistic kids unless they were hidden or I just didn't see them like 15 to 20 years ago as prevalent as they are today.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Medication at birth. People don't go, what? Yeah, there's a medication got in the 60s and it caused a lot of thalidomide and distorted childbirth. So I think that's a lot of it. And the other thing, most people think that illnesses are passed down and deformities and cancers are passed down from generation. Alcoholism is passed down. So alcoholics are born, drug addicts are made, but also the diseases. But when we look into and research this to the highest, what we found is it's not the disease that's passed down. It's the way of living. It's the food. It's the vitamins. It's the, the surroundings. So if my mama had inflammation on the knees, let's say she had bad knees, then there's a good chance that I will get bad knees, but it's not caught off mom. It's a deficiency in vitamins or food that the family's been going through years and years. So if you change that deficiency, there's a good chance you won't have inflammation on the knees. So I think that's a lot of it myself. And the other thing is as well, we've got to remember is breath work. Breath work will add 5 years onto your life. And listen to this. Every cancer's growths, every illnesses, every inflammation in the body grows or starts in a hypoxic area, in where the place where there's no oxygen. Why is that? Well, we only breathe 25% of our lung capacity. The reason you feel so good when you go to the gym is not the exercise going to blow somebody's mind. It's this in between sets. That's why running is so intoxicating. So when you get up in the morning, guys, here's how to make you feel amazing, clear mind. Make sure you do the right thing every day. You're ambitious, you're happy. Because the reason why nobody wakes up ever laughing in the morning, ever, is lack of oxygen. So we get up, we take 10 exaggerated breaths in, same at noon, same about 5 o'clock. No illnesses can grow any further than they are. The oxygen is rushed around the body, especially to the brain, producing the 4 chemicals, endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, to happen every day to make you happy. This is the scientific research behind almost every illness, is what's really going on. What's really happening here. And the more Gary Brecker, good friend of mine, he's the microbiologist that's blowing all this apart. This is mostly his research that I'm talking about. It's like you really need to know what's going on. You really need to know what you're suffering from. And the doctor is not always right. Now, when I say that, docs, before you start ringing me up and saying that I'm being horrible, let me tell you a statistic that we've been following for at least 20 years. Especially soccer mom, every soccer mom that ends up on cocaine or heroin, especially, started in the doctor's office. So don't come that bullshit, doctors. You need to be held responsible for all the narcotics you're prescribing and getting backhanders off the pharmaceutical companies. Don't think I don't know about that. Yeah, everybody knows, but no one's going to say it. Yeah, I'm saying it. If you go to the doctor and he gives you a strong narcotic, get a second opinion. You'll be surprised how many times we don't need the medication we're being prescribed. I come to America, and I'm sure Britain's the same now. People are on 6, 8 medications at the same time. And people taking depressant medication, right? And they're still depressed. It's like Gary Brecker says again, how long have you been taking medication for depression? Oh, about 10 years. When did you think it was going to kick in? What? Yeah. Instead of when I feel depressed and I say to my wife, I'm depressed, I can't pull out of it, go to the doctors. And we go to the doctors and it gives us an SSR, which is a release serotonin. So what happens in a couple of weeks or a month time, we feel almost back to normal and we live with that. The only problem is these 2 questions I want to ask. How long are you going to be able to take that medication? Answer, rest of your life. Why the hell is nobody asking why my serotonin is low in the first place? Boom. Once you find out that answer, which is obviously sunlight, social belonging, stuff like that, you'll realize that the body creates everything we need to create. Now, let me tag that. If you're suffering from serious depression, bipolar, where the chemicals in the brain have changed, you need your medication. What I'm saying, if you're brand new with a depression, don't always think you have to take pain meds or psych meds or depression meds. There's sometimes a way around
that. That's powerful. Because if in my own home, I don't think I would think that I didn't really deal with depression. I don't think when I was a kid. I don't remember that. I really didn't have anxiety. But I'll tell you this, a couple of my kids have both, you know what I mean? And I'm like, my middle son, my 27-year-old, 28, I'm trying to talk to him, and I'm like, he sees me, he sees how I am. And he's like, Dad, all your rah stuff, it doesn't get to me like it does to you. That's not what motivates me. And I'm like, well, what motivates you, son, besides your music or whatever? And he took it upon himself. He had gotten overweight. I could tell. I said, you sure you're just not depressed because you don't like the way you feel? And I said, and somehow other friends of them, they all got together and decided, hey, we're going to do this weight loss thing. And now he's in it for a 70-pound weight loss at this point. And I can see that he's different.
Yeah.
He speaks to somebody on a weekly basis. He has somebody that he speaks with, a doctor that he speaks with. I don't really think he's on medications per se, but he definitely had a mind change. I see that more and more all the time with parents here, that their kids are anxious, the kids are anxiety. I have kids that are still wearing masks for I don't know why. You know what I mean? I ask them, I said, why are you wearing that? Some say, I don't like the way I look, so I just use my mask. You heard of all this type of anxiety in young kids? How can you help a coach help children with their anxiety? I mean, us coaches, man, I tell everybody I don't teach martial arts as much as I do consultations. I can tell you that. They're in my office, they're crying, they're this, they're bullied, they're this.
Yeah.
And I can't get to every school. I mean, some schools I'll just go to when it gets really bad. I'll just walk them to school myself, and I'll walk around with them. And usually I'm a big enough deterrent that, they stop, but the problem doesn't really go away with them mentally. Yeah. So how do you help a coach out?
Well, it's a couple of things. The first question, if someone's anxious, is this, guys: are you on Adderall, Vyvanse, or any stimulant? Because Adderall and the likes are just amphetamine salts. That's all they are. The speed, Are you on any of those medications? If they are, there's the reason. There's two things that happen. If you suffer from depression, you're thinking about the past and worry about the past that's happened. If you're anxious, you worry about the future. So when you look at fear, that's always tagged with anxiety. The fear of the future, what's going to happen, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. Fear isn't real. Babies are born with two fears: the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. The rest are man-made. Wait till your father gets home. Oh, if you don't pass this exam, if you don't get into college, it's like BS. Shut up. Stop putting all that on me. The kids are in so much pressure these days with having to do this, having to do that. It's like we need to back off them a little tiny bit. The children 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 should not be on Adderall, period. There was a point in the United States of America, and I became a citizen 4 years ago, so I take this shit real serious. There was a time in the United States of America where you couldn't get Adderall. They were sold out. A drug was sold out. Billions of them made they were sold out. You had to wait 3 or 4 days at the pharmacist to get them. And why? Because they're giving it to our kids. How's our kids going to grow up when they're always in that fight or flight? Now, if you have ADHD and you take the medication and you have HCAD, it will slow everything down. Okay. If you don't, 95% of people that take it don't, it speeds your head up and you start getting a high off it. So people who are doing exams, studying all night, kids, going raves, they're all on Adderall. You've got to stop that shit. You've got to look at it. If you're on no medication, what's going on? And you'll find out the same occurring pattern is childhood trauma. Where was you abandoned? Where was you not validated or approved as a child? What happened with your child? Where was the molestation? And you'll find sooner or later that it's there. That's why kids are anxious or depressed. It's because of what's going on in the past. Once you visit that and clear it up, then, 12, 13, 14, 15s I've worked with the same problem, you realize that your past should not define who you are. And most of your past is none of your fault. It's not your fault. It's not the anxiety to carry. Depression is passed down. It's called enmeshment, passed down from parents, especially mom to children. So mom's depressed, daughter's usually depressed. It's a pattern. Monkey see, monkey do. It's a mirroring part of the brain. If I see something often enough, I'm gonna start doing that. You know, if I have a friend that has a stupid saying like "shut up," within a couple of weeks or months, I'm gonna start saying that because the mirroring parts of the brain pick up that, and we want to do exactly. We want to mirror each other. So again, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. If you hang around 9 depressed people, you will become the 10th. If you hang around 9 successful, happy people, you will become the 10th. There's no even thinking about it. You will become the 10th. Why do you think university is so popular and all the guys that went to Harvard got amazing jobs? Because they're hanging around with the guys that went to Harvard. You know, but what people are not remembering or don't know is their minds are born exactly the same. Your mind and the guy who's CEO of multi-trillion, they're same. It's the same. So why has he done that and that and that? Well, I'll go back to childhood trauma now, because for a long time, again, I didn't think I was blonde enough, tall enough, rich enough, or thin enough. So if you're sat at home and you listen to this and you're thinking that you never could achieve what I've achieved, and you'll never be nothing, and you'll never, be the best father, I want to apologize to you because somebody's put that there. Babies are born with $1 million minds. What the hell are you doing hanging around 10-cent minds? We need to get out and push the envelope, and we need to teach our children not to be so fearful, and that we can protect them all of the time. We can protect them.
That's powerful. I guess because I raised my kids. So, through my divorce, the kids were with me. So I raised my children. I have 3 boys and a girl. And I can see, well, they all had to grow up fast because, I had the martial arts school. So I'm kind of working at night, I had to have my older one help out with what we had to do. I was lucky enough to be able to take him to school, pick him up because of how the martial arts hours were. I was able to do both of those, but it certainly took a toll on my family. I can tell you that. I remember the certain part of the year, all my children, my oldest son had to lose 110 pounds. I remember the pizza and lasagna and spaghetti days of just trying to get through and being, me, trying to get through anger. And then I find that a couple of my sons have that anger bug that I've got. You know what I mean? I've seen it. Yeah. I've seen it come out. I've gotten older, so it doesn't flare. But man, I'll tell you, it still can flare. And when it flares, I try and keep it kind of suppressed. That's why you always see the Hulk on me everywhere, right? Because I'm trying to keep him suppressed. Because when he comes out, and you can actually hurt people, it's not a really good, and not just by physically hurt, but I'm just talking about just mentally beat somebody down just by how you talk to them. Either of those, it's been complicated. So, I watch my sons dealing with anger. Maybe you can give some advice on how to have anger control, how to have it. Now, I had to go to some classes. I checked myself in for 6 months on anger management when I was going through the divorce, because I did not want something to go awry there, And so where I'm going to put myself in jeopardy. Now, of course, a lot of these guys are court mandated, and I'm like, man, these guys are. I thought I was bad with anger. I mean, we're talking about taking bedposts and knocking their wives upside their head, and I was like, what the frick? Yeah. And so anger, I think I've seen anger. I've seen anger in young men here that I have in my own school, especially a group of alpha type men. And jiu-jitsu has been a lifesaver for them, even over sparring. Sparring, not everybody likes because you get hit in the face. Jiu-jitsu, you can get on the ground and you can roll around a little bit, and you're not really, taking punishment to your face and stuff like that. But the release of something, I don't know, it's like a cleansing, to be honest with you, Doc. Even myself, if I missed, I roll 2 or 3 days a week. If I miss one of those, I can feel myself a little bit anxious and a little bit on edge. And every time I kind of roll, it's kind of like a washing, like you're getting out of a shower and you're taking everything, all this dirt off you. What do you think on those lines? Anger, that type of thing, physical.
So what happens is when we're children, there's been violence in the house. If somebody grows up violent, everything you see in the house, you get taught to do. Again, monkey see, monkey do. Everything we hear, we believe to be the truth, and everything we see is how we feel. So what happens is we all want to be like dad, or girls want to be like mom, but they adore dad. So whatever they replicate in that house, if the young boy sees dad coming home every night, and most nights it's violence, he learns a couple of things. He learns to run and hide at certain points, and he'll always be dominated by father and beaten up by father and stuff like that. So that's inbred as normal living, okay? Because what's it to compare to? Nothing. Mom and dad teach us everything. So if you see that behavior, then you're going to go on to do that behavior. And this is where girls, it's really easy to track girls when this happens, because they see father coming home drunk, hitting mom, and they learn a couple of things. They learn to listen for the door. Does the key go straight in the door, or does it jangle around a bit? Because if it jangles around and doesn't go straight in, dad's drunk and it's going to be violent, so they run. But that behavior itself becomes a comfort zone. So what happens when the girl grows up to be a woman in her teens and 20s, and she starts dating, she will attract the guys that will always end up beating her, and always end up the alcoholic type. Now, why is that? Well, it's because of the energy that she's learned. It becomes a comfort zone. Now, our tests and trials have shown that if that girl by any means meets a guy that treats her well with no violence, she will self-sabotage that relationship because it doesn't feel comfortable. So when we see kids going through, we see in adults a lot in offices, there are people around that needs to cause drama because that's their comfort zone, because they've seen that in their house. So they'll always call drama. There's always one in the office that causes the drama. It's usually the overweight girl or guy wants to cause drama and run away. That's childhood trauma. That's all they're doing. So the anger in itself is the inability to express one's feelings, because it's all in there that you've been told as a kid to shut up, never be seen, always be, sit in the corner. It's not your job. So it gets on, builds up, and the only thing we can do it on is the nearest person that what we see, because it bursts out. So how do we get rid of that? Well, what happens is first of all, we lose our identity. Women lose their identity in marriages a lot of the times. Boys lose their identity because they're not really related and connected with fathers, so they've never been validated, never been approved. So as they grow up, this becomes a violent act to put them in that comfort zone and find their identity. Where do they get their identity from? From people like you, Mark, from the stuff you do, from the martial arts that they train. See, everyone thinks martial arts is about fighting. You know as well as I do, it's not. It's about discipline. It's about being at one with oneself and knowing worth, knowing what you are worth. When you know what you are worth, you will never be violent. Never be violent. Because you need validating, my man, and you need approval, and you need to say, hey, you are worth it. And that's what it comes down to. But the law of attraction is very powerful out there. And the quantum physics that attaches to that and the neuroscience that we do proves that. Once you find out your identity, find out how powerful you really are, because girls and guys, if you sat at home watching this and you think you're kind of attractive, you're 25% more attractive than you think you are. You're 25 more intelligent than you think you are. You're probably 25% thinner or muscular than you think you are. We never see ourselves in the mirror. What we see in the mirror is a distorted picture from our childhood. Boom. So when I used to be a bodybuilder, but then I put a lot of weight on, and kids often find this when they're heavy set, going through the 20s, 30s, and 40s, and they lose a lot of weight, they still go into close place and go for the big and tall area instead of going to the medium and large area. When they go out, they'll order massive food, even though they can't eat it now, because of the old behavior and picture of themselves. It's very hard for somebody to see themselves in the mirror as they truly are. It's very, very hard. Once you find out what's going on here, you can fix here, man. I'm telling you.
All my children suffer from that. This body dysmorphia. Every one of them. My son, my other son, that's a runner now. He was always heavy even through high school, and he had lost 110 pounds. He runs, I don't know, anywhere from 4 to 7 miles a day now. That's what he does. And he's he's 145 pounds, right? And he just looks at himself and he tells me all the time. He goes, I don't even know if I can take my shirt off at the beach, Dad. And I'm like, I don't know how to help you with that, son. I really don't know. I don't have answers for you. I said, you conquered this thing that you needed to conquer. You got to see it in your mind now. Stop worrying about anything. He'll get triggered if somebody even teases him at all, right? I'm like, why you give a shit what somebody says? Who gives a fuck? You know what I mean?
Now somebody said something to him as a child or a young adult that's scarred him. And here's what I had once. There was a group of guys. We meet every week. Everything was great. One of the kids, or one of the 20s, 30s, lost a load of weight. It was phenomenal. He looked amazing. Wasn't great, but he looked amazing. And he heard one comment, and he'd stopped training for a couple of weeks because he was sick, but he was also eating back to his old behaviors, and he started to put maybe 10 pounds back on. So he's lost 100, put 10 pounds back on. He heard somebody in the background as he's walking past a group of people saying, "Oh, look at Billy, he's getting fat again." Oh my God, the damage done by that is unbelievable. Now, when I was a kid, around 8, 9, 10, my parents used to drop me off at what they called friend's house to go out drinking. So they would look after us, till the next day. And as soon as my mum and dad's car pulled out the driveway, we had to play a game called Run Round Naked. So we had to get all undressed and run round. I didn't know that was child abuse. Anything less than nurturing, by the way, is child abuse. I didn't know that. But as a bodybuilder, I still won't take my top off. That's the stuff that scarred us. So why is that memory acting out today? I don't want to take my clothes off. Sometimes it's related to what we see ourselves, but mostly it's related to something's happened in the past where someone's ridiculing or said something about the physique. And in about 6 months' time, he'll realize how good he looks if he gets the right help. Otherwise, kids are stuck in that traumatic event. Like there's a nursery rhyme with the kids at school. Sticks and stones will break your bones, but words will never hurt me. What a bunch of shit that is. And I'm sure you can, Mark. I can destroy somebody in 2 seconds with what I say sometimes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I've done it like an asshole. I've been an asshole for sure.
Yeah, 100%. We can change people's days. So the way I look at it today is you need to surround them people with lots of validation and approval and, get friends to do that or relatives to do that. And all of a sudden what we hear is how we feel, remember? So sorry, how we see is how we feel. So we see these people coming to us and saying how amazing we are. Eventually you're going to take that on as a working part of the mind. It's the basal ganglia part of the mind, repetition, strength, and confirms. But if nothing's coming in and old behaviors and thought patterns of the past that scarred you, it'll keep going round and round and round and round. And then what happens is you keep self-sabotaging at certain points and you'll never get.
I definitely feel even myself in that
childhood trauma.
Yes. I definitely feel I felt that even in myself, I hate that one of my memories of my oldest son is, gosh, I remember when Dad was angry driving and he pulled somebody out and he bounced his head right off our hood of our car. And I'm like, ugh. I said, I remember those days, man. That's how angry I was. I mean, I would fight at the drop of a hat and give 2 shits about it. And, then that's probably from, I was bullied pretty good in school. I started lifting weights when I was a younger guy, 12 years old. So I've always bigger than everybody else. I've always been a bigger athlete. So, I've always heard it. I've always heard something. And I still hear it today, even as an adult. It didn't matter how many teeth I knock or how many black eyes I've given out. The words kept on coming. And at some point I had to say, man, I'm going to have to back off. And then I see what I've done to my own children.
Yeah.
And then I don't have a way to fix it. You know what I mean? It sucks. It really sucks. And
it has to be an outside source, but it's very, 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 very fixable. As I was saying, the only reason I started weightlifting or bodybuilding was because I was getting knocked around the ring, because I was so light and I was getting bullied at school. So I started bodybuilding, and what happened is I was a natural. I had to take steroids. I did in the end because everyone was telling me that I was, so I took them anyway. But in the beginning, and then what started to happen, Mark, is I was walking around school and everything, and people would, hey, watch out, Robb Kelly's here. Don't annoy him. He'll batter you. And people become scared of me. And then what happened inside? I didn't see this big outside guy. I still was this 9-year-old kid inside that was scared that somebody still bullying me. And it was a really strange situation to be in. Because I'm expected to come up and beat me up or but everyone was scared. So what happened then, talk about the mind and the psychology behind this, then I started to think nobody liked me because no one would approach me. The reason we stopped approaching me is I was scary looking and it looked like I was going to kill somebody because of all, bodybuilding and the martial arts and stuff. People were scared. It happened a few months ago in a group of men I go down and speak to. There's about 50 guys there. And I've been doing it for a few months. But after I finished speaking, Mark, everyone would just go their own way in the different cliques in the corners. And I stand there on my own and nobody would approach me. And one day, a couple of weeks ago, I said to the guy that owns it, I said, you know something, I'm thinking of stepping down, Jimmy. And he was like, stepping down? Why would you step down? I said, well, nobody's really giving a shit what I do. Nobody kind of likes me. And he started laughing. And he said, likes you? No one's going to approach you, Rob. They've seen you on TV. They've seen you, writing the books. They've seen you with part of the government. They've seen you on you're a superstar. And I'm like, what? There's no. I thought they hated me. They were intimidated, or they didn't want to come up in case I was like, oh, go away. I'm too busy and famous to see you guys. And I was thinking it was me. And that's what happens 9 out of 10 times with human beings is they think it's me. It's not. It's like the guys you got out of the car and bounced off, the guys you threatened to kill, like we all did back in the day. It wasn't about the guy. It was really about us. Why we were so angry, why we were so defensive, why we wanted to strike out, because we couldn't verbally put it into a situation that would calm it down. So we did the only thing that we knew as a kid was to fucking defend ourselves and strike out first. I was always told that. This is why most of my relationships didn't last, and because of my abandonment, is when I started dating girls, I would leave them before they left me, because I knew eventually they were going to leave me. And it's the same with fighting. Always strike the first punch. Always. If you think it's happening, you make a move. And you know as well as me, man, I did the doors for years and years. No doubt you did something similar. And I can tell when someone's about to throw a punch, when the stance changes, little things like cleansing a little tiny bit, the eye movement. And I would strike first every single time, because that was my defense. Because I didn't want you to hurt me, so I'm going to strike first. I didn't want you to leave me, so I'm going to leave you first. And it's just a shit way of living, to be honest.
Yes, that's 100%. And this is helpful for me, even because I say this all the time. Every time I do podcasts, I'm able to get to you guys and kind of, because this has all happened here. It happens in my school. It's happened in my house. I remember just recently my son and both my boys, as a matter of fact, they're at a stage of becoming men. They're adults age, but they still live with me, right? So. Still some of my rules here, boys. And when you're going to lash out, you're going to get the other side of dad. And both times this has happened, and it almost went to blows with both of them. And I'm thinking, I'm going to knock the shit out of my sons here in about 2 seconds, man. And I can feel it coming. And, then they'll egg me on. Both my sons did this to me, both clenched hands, ready to kind of throw. And I said, man, don't do it. Don't do it. Yeah. And then I kind of walked away, and then this is what I did, because I was like, either I'm going to be angry at this kid. So I knocked on the door, super angry. I grabbed my son. I just hugged him, and I said, I shouldn't have, even though you were angry at me, I shouldn't come back like that, I'm going to fight you. So they broke down in tears, both of them. Right. And I don't know, something changed.
We have to do that. We have to do that as fathers. If we show them not to do that, they're going to go out to the world and do that and have complications. You see, going back to your identity, I used to walk into a room, Mark, and I used to worry I used to think to myself, who likes me in here? What I do today is I kick the fucking door down, walk in and go, who do I like in here? So once you find your identity of it's like a Ferrari. Arnold Schwarzenegger, who I met back in the 70s because of the bodybuilding, he tells a story about buying the first Ferrari, and pulling up at the signal lights, traffic lights, and the guy next to him revving his engines in some other car, and Arnold pulled off really slow, and he got asked by a newspaper reporter, why didn't you burn him off? And he said, when you know what you're capable of doing, what's the point in showing off? And that bodes well to everything that we do. Just because I have a Ferrari doesn't mean I have to show you how fast it is, because I know how fast it is. Just because you see a certain situation where it could cause, I know what I can do. So I stay calm in the situation, I'm not quick to jump up with, the threat of going to kill you, because, and I'm sure you this is you, but you probably don't know. When we go walk in a room, we're smiling and happy, but to guys in there that they see one thing: I'm not going to fuck with him. No way, I'm going to mess with him, because that's what we carry into a room. It's not ego, it's confidence that you know what you can do after the years of experience and the years of talks we've got. I'm 62, like you, Mark. But you know something? Stack them up, 19, 20, 25, 20, 30, makes no difference. I'll still put you down because I know what I'm capable of doing. Now, will that last the rest of my life? Hell no. If I know 20 years time, I'm not going to do that. But then I know my limits. So I'm going to carry a gun. It's kind of that situation. Once you find out that violence is not the answer, arguing with somebody that we should have more sense of doing that a hug that makes a difference will change your son's life forever. It really will, psychologically. It will. Because we know what we're capable of doing. I don't have to get violent today. You fucking know what I can do just by looking at me. You see the big frame and you know what I can do. So I'm not going there with you unless you want to. And if you do, make sure your freaking insurance is up to date.
Yes, I have that. I've often wondered, why does everybody think I'm so intimidating? Because I'm not unapproachable, but I do walk into a room like, like I do walk in a room just like that, like when I walk in, and it's I do that. I don't know if that's good or bad. It's just something I told him. I said, I don't know how to get rid of that. I said, I don't think I'm ever getting rid of it. And when I step on the mat, I have super confidence. It was never a matter if I was super fat or not. I mean, when I stepped on the mat, you knew that I was about to deliver some kind of a good class, and I enjoyed the fight. I still enjoy the fight today. Yeah. I still enjoy it.
100%. I think when you walk into a room and everyone kind of fears you but never going to say it, the way I got around that was to go around and you saw this, go around every person in that room and shake their hand and say, great to see you, man, you're awesome. And then they go, oh, wow, he's actually a good guy. Instead of stay away from him. And I fight people with kindness today. Even my haters, got some haters out, they go, he's a waste of time. And when I see them, they walk up and I hug them. They go, man, I just love you, man. I just want you to let you know. Yeah, but I wrote that comment. It doesn't make any difference, man. You're a human being. I love you to bits, man. And they don't hate on me anymore.
Well, I can tell you, Dr. Robb, man, that hour went by quick as we did this, man. It sure did. I've got so much respect for you, number one, and just so many good nuggets today, even just to help me personally. I didn't realize how much kindred spirits we are, born in the same year, backgrounds, dealing with it. I mean, I didn't hit the streets, but I was very close. I stayed in now I didn't hit the streets, but I was in a garage on a cot at the cousin's house who molested me as a teenager. Right. And I remember when I was 18 and he walked in, and I was bigger then. He walked by and he goes, hey, Mark, how you doing, man? I cold cocked him, man. Right. I was like, man, right into the pool.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not that fucking getting, you know what I mean? I was just like on it. And I remember that vividly. And so it's, and I just think I've just carried it forever. I'm kind of the black sheep. My brother's the one that I tell him all the time. My brother's the one that can walk on water. I'm the one that kind of treads. I'm the black sheep. But when shit hits the fan, who do they come to? The black sheep.
Always.
Always. So it's been such a good hour. So I'm going to just give you the last 30 seconds, Doc. Give us some words of wisdom from your side, and we'll go on with our day.
Okay, guys. So listen, remember, we never know how powerful we are. So today or tomorrow when you get up, make your bed, go to the bathroom. If you brush your hand with your right hand, brush it with your left for a week, then back for a week, then back for a week, and back for a week. Do that for a month, guys, and you will change the way you think. And 10 exaggerated breaths every single morning will move the way you go. And then plan 5 things you're going to do today. 5 things. They could be easy as breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then 2 errands. But make sure you complete the 5 things. And as the life goes on, increase them 5 things to make sure the report's done. I want to do this. Start really easy so you don't set yourself up for failure. Your life will change from tomorrow.
So good, Doc. Doc, tell everybody what your podcast is in Texas so they can follow yours.
So Breaking Through Addiction is the podcast. And I spell my name with 2 B's in case you can't see, but you're listening, guys. ROBBKELY.com is the website. Jump on there, see the conference. There's also the Robb Kelly Foundation. We don't take a dime out of that. We have no paid staff on that at all. We have only volunteers. So yeah, guys, come and see us. Say hi. If you want a book, send me a message. Come find me. I'll send you a signed book if you want it. If you buy it from Amazon, you don't like it, text me. I'll refund your money.
Sounds great, Doc. Had a great time with you, man. It was my pleasure today. We'll see you. We're out.
You've been listening to Real Talk with Mark Cox. Real life, real topics, real conversation. We're passionate about motivation, fitness, self-defense, weight loss, and coming at it from a real angle. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. And we hope you had fun. We know we did. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit us up on Instagram and Facebook at MarkCox100. Make sure to subscribe and review.